for today's segment, we're fortunate to have architect Jay Mason with us. Jay's a Lowell resident, and he's a community activist involved with many organizations. Jay, why don't you tell us a few things about yourself on a professional level? Then we can talk a little bit on a personal level, who you are, your family.
Sure. Thank you. Professionally, I'm an architect. I have an interest in planning and historic preservation and renovation. We do a lot of work in the Merrimack Valley. We've been involved as a company here, small company, Architectural Consulting Services, since 1993. And we've done a number of projects for some of our city clients include UMass. We're looking at a project with Middlesex Community College. We've been doing work in the neighborhoods and downtown, and we really enjoy doing that kind of reclamation of older buildings. It's a lot of fun.
So your emphasis is preservation, historical preservation. So you're in the right city.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself personally? Many people know who you are and your family, but maybe there's a few
Sure.
of the viewers who do not know.
I moved here with my family in '93. I came here with my wife, Jackie Doherty, who was on the school committee for 8 years, and my 4-month-old son, who's now a junior at college. And we have 2 children. We've been in Tyler Park for 20 years. It's been quite a ride for us. We've seen the city improve dramatically since our first days here. It's been an exciting ride. We feel like we've been a small part of it, and it's been a great experience.
I know you personally, and I know, of course, your wife, and I know you're involved in different community activities, and obviously you were involved in some way in the election. What did you think of the turnout? I know you and I were very much concerned about getting more people involved.
Sure.
What did you think of the turnout in this last week's election?
Well, I think it was nice to see an additional uptick of at least 50-60% in the numbers. We got close to the 2011 numbers that we were shooting for. You know, there was a get out the vote, double the vote initiative, and I know you and I both participated in that. Michael Gallagher spearheaded that, and that was a great initiative. And I think it bore some fruit, and I think it's the kind of thing that we want to continue to try to build on. Without being invested in your community, you can't really expect to get anything out of it.
Yeah, when people will ask me, well, what do you care who comes out to vote or not? And I always say, well, it's not who you vote for, but if you're vested in the process, then you become a good citizen. You don't litter, you don't vandalize. You have a stake, and if we have only a few people who believe they have a stake, it's not healthy for the community. So it's not really who gets elected; it's the process itself.
Absolutely. Pride is an important part of community activism and just being a good neighbor. If you care about the way your house looks, you're gonna improve the entire neighborhood. You know, it's a kind of a rub shoulders thing. You get out there and you do your piece, and before you know it, the whole neighborhood gets transformed. I've seen this personally, and our work with Tyler Park. We joined with the city. We had a great partnership, still do, and it's borne some terrific results.
Now you have 2 young children. One is of voting age. One of the problems, not only in our community, but nationwide, is you and I are a certain age where actors, when you were in high school, you registered for vote. In college, you were very active. It's not the same now. From your experience, how do we get younger people? Although I have to say this election, you and I ran into a lot of younger people.
Sure.
How do we get younger people involved in civic participation?
It's so difficult because you are fighting with so many other opportunities and activities that are competing for attention. And as strongly as we both feel about the political process and your need to be invested in it, it's very difficult to communicate that effectively, I think, to young people who are, dealing with social media that's vying for their attention. They're dealing with all the different activities and things that they're going through. And politics in general seems like it doesn't have that immediate connection, and in fact we know that it does, and communicating that is both the challenge and the next step I think we see ourselves trying to work through. So it's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah, I think the youngers, your children's age, a little bit older, are definitely not involved. But I saw in this particular election, people in their high 20s or low 30s, that age group, I was very pleased to see people understanding that it's not good enough to be involved in a national movement or even a state movement, but my backyard is the most important thing. And I had not seen this before. I saw it at this election with younger candidates. They brought out people who understood their language, and I felt good. I felt good that we have a whole new cadre of people coming in. Did you run across these people in your?
I absolutely did. I mean, I was fortunate enough to work on both the Mitchell campaign and a little bit with the Hargis campaign, and it was great to see these young folks bring their enthusiasm, their energy level, and also their professionalism and experiences to the process. I think Van Peck as well. I mean, all the folks that were out there challenging, and I've got to hand it to them. It is a hugely difficult task, and it's a difficulty for you personally, for
And
your
the family,
family.
yeah.
I can relate to that. It's an investment, and you got to give everybody who ran,
That's
all
for sure.
18 challengers, a pat on the back for participating and making it important for
I
for the
personally
city.
think it takes a certain kind of personality to put your name out there, first of all. And second of all, today, it's not only the race, but once you serve, all the time and effort that goes into it, it's like having two jobs. So I agree with you. We're fortunate that this year we had a lot of people running, and hopefully this will continue because we could talk a little bit about your community activism. Again, going back to what I said earlier, if you don't have people who are engaged, you're going to have issues. And if you look at the map of how people vote, those areas where people don't vote are the areas where we have the social and economic and even crime issues. I know you live at Tyler Park, which is, I would say, a little bit of a frontier. And that it borders different kinds of neighborhoods. Would you agree with that?
Sure. It's kind of a gateway, I think of it, to the city from the west. You will go by Tyler Park on your way downtown, or your way to Cobble Square, on your way through from Chelmsford, and it's a kind of a threshold between outside Lowell and the downtown. So I love it because it's got its natural elements that I find really. I used to live in the city, and I didn't. I parked. I put a chair in front of my house to protect my parking spot. Now I have the luxury of a driveway. I'm just so thrilled. Lowell has provided, those benefits to us moving here, and I think you're part of the city process. You want to see good things happen.
Now, the Highlands is a big neighborhood, but it has these sub categories, and the drastic differences between, as you drive from your house to Couple Square and then eventually to Lord Overpass, which I did this morning. I was running around errands. You see a progression of the housing that you're very much interested in, from being taken care of to the point where totally abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
So how, if you had the ear of the city council and the ear of the administration, what would be one of two suggestions from an architect preservation point of view and a community activist? What would you say to them to help this, to help the people at the other end of Westford Street maybe look more like Tyler Park?
Well, you talked about getting involved. We're talking about getting young people involved. Now we're talking about involving different socioeconomic levels or inputs, community members, getting them involved. And it's the same thing. You've got to beat that drum of participation. You get what you ask for. You're in a community with a number of neighbors and friends and family. You need to engage those people if you expect results. And it's the same whether you're talking politics or you're talking the economics of your neighborhood. If your neighborhood has blighted buildings, it's the broken window scenario, which you know well. You fix that window, and the next thing you know, the neighbor is fixing his, and but you've got to start with fixing that first window.
I know people talk about crime, but I really feel that one of the ways of helping a neighborhood is making the neighborhood look decent. making sure that there is no garbage on the street, making sure that if a landlord, and there's a lot of landlords who don't do a decent job by their property, rather than, you can hire all the cops you want, but if these things are not taken care of, it is the broken windows
Sure.
scenario. People just, if one house is blighted, then why shouldn't the next one and the next one? But on the other hand, if you fix one house, your house is clean, and you put pressure on your neighbors to maintain their house, then you have a neighborhood that's viable. I think when you moved into Tyler Park, it wasn't what it is today, correct?
Absolutely. Folks, my favorite analogy was folks were changing their oil on the sides of Tyler Park. I mean, you just drive up and that's the kind of environment it was. It's dramatically changed because people took an interest, were able to have an effective relationship with the city, and there was leverage there. And I think the city saw that leverage. The neighbors grew to learn that leverage existed, and together we fashioned a much more improved space. And that can happen, but you've got to get the word out. You've got to communicate.
And it's got to be a balance between the city, the government, and the people. The people cannot expect the government to do everything. They themselves have to partner with the city government to do it. I think we have certain neighborhood groups that are much more active than others, but we certainly, all of us should support anyone who does any of this. Going back to the election, were you surprised with anything? I don't mean by who got elected, but surprised in general that, for example, we had, although the cow has said a larger Cambodian community came out, but yet the people who were Cambodian Americans did not get elected. And to me, they are probably the largest ethnic group in the city. I always feel as if you have a voice, you think you have a voice, then you have a voice.
Yeah.
And were you surprised that some of this did not occur, or is it too early to analyze what happened?
I don't think. Well, first of all, I think that a great starting point for a seasoned answer to that question is to look at Dick Howe's blog on that Cambodian result and what did happen. I personally haven't gone through it and aren't completely up to speed with what happened and why what happened did happen. But I do think that you have to be enfranchised. You have to be engaged, and you have to feel connected to and capable of your own change in the city. The Cambodian population needs to be brought deeper and more connectedly into our city government because they're such a large population. I feel the same way about Spanish Americans. I feel the same way about women. Stacey Hargis said something like 5 women on the city council in the last 50 years. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know there was a recent controversy in the city about a certain friend of mine who got appointed to the election commission. People were accusing him of not being pro-woman. But so we have all these people who are pro-women. It's a good point. Why don't we have more women on the city council? You had 3 women running, and I think it was Greg Page who did this analysis, and in Dick Howe's blog he had commented. You had the bookends where the highest voter was a woman, the lowest voter turnout was a woman. Rita won, Genevieve was lost. Then you had Stacey towards the end. That's a very interesting point. I don't think you and I are going to have an answer today, but I think there needs to be look at why don't we have more women on the city council.
Well, Genevieve's example is a fascinating one. She decided she would run for office in large part because her house has been shot at.
Right.
I mean, talk about public safety. She has a direct, incredibly
she lives in a very
emotional
dense,
connection.
Centralville, dense neighborhood, so she sees things that some of us do not see, right? But again, I don't think we're going to come up with an answer today, but I'm glad it's out there, and that discussion should take place. Why don't more women support women? It seems like, even if you look at the boards, and you're familiar with the regulatory boards, the women are almost the library board, Conservation Commission. They're not on the zoning. They're not on the planning. They're not on the license commission. And we have a lot of strong, opinionated women in Lowell.
I think it starts with communication, like we talked about. So you get the neighborhood groups to get involved. They get a stronger encouragement through city policy to be involved. So let's say the manager continues his job. Let's say that Rodney's mayor. Rodney's primary objectives are public safety and economic development, as I think they should be.
And most city
you know.
councilors, I think, yeah.
And
right.
I think we're going to see that there's going to be some cohesion, I think, this term. So now you communicate the needs of the city that go beyond those overarching ideas into things like schools, into other aspects of the city government issues that affect the person on the street. And maybe through the neighborhood groups you find a way of getting that word out that, hey, this is important, pay attention, or don't complain.
Interestingly enough, all the neighborhood groups, most of them I should say, are led by women. You know?
Good point.
But before we close out the segment, because we're going to have another segment to discuss different topics, I was wondering if you mentioned that it's going to be cohesive, the city council. I tend to believe
so.
that. I think it will be. I think Rodney should be given a chance, and he's been on enough. We'll see. Obviously, if I believe you and I believe that it's not going the way we want, we have our voice. I think it'll be interesting to see who becomes the vice mayor, and most importantly to me, who are the chairs of economic development, finance, and public safety. Who he appoints to be the chair of those committees will be key to me. So thank you for this segment, and we'll be back shortly.